Hello, my name is Muzayan Ismail. Welcome to Wolaabuu Broadcasting Corporation, WBC. This is a program that we host weekly for to discuss on the current affairs of Ethiopian government as well as whatever is going on in Oromia as a result of the crisis in Ethiopia. I have two guests with me today. Um, so I would like to start with you to begin by introducing yourself. Can I start with Milko?
Hi, yes. So my name is Milko Badasso. I was previously on the broadcast before. I'm a University of Winnipeg student. Political science is my degree that I'm studying at the moment as well.
Thank you so much, Milko. Welcome again. Hashim, can you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, thank you. My name is Hashim Adam. I uh, so my story a little bit. I was about 10 years ago. I was Oyamambre, Minnesota, president of the Oromo Student Union at the University of Minnesota, and also International Oromo Youth Association. This is 10 years ago, so just a little bit about me. I'm still, yeah.
Thank you, Hashim. Thank you again for coming and joining us on this interview. So our topic for today will be on political environment and humanitarian and human rights situations in Oromia and Ethiopia. So in this regard, the Oromo youth, we also call Kairos and Kares, have played a key role in bringing the current change that we see in Ethiopia. However, obvious governments, even though they are expected to herald the positive change after a century of humiliation and marginalization of the Oromo, as well as all the southern people, um, there is a significant thing that we have been expecting as a community. Unfortunately, in less than these 2 years of his office term, all this up has gone. Our expectation have been completely diminished and close to probably disappear totally. As we witness, the Oromo still continue to face oppression and marginalization despite being ruled by people who claim their identity. So going back and looking at the history or the past events or situations that we've been through, how do you assess the contribution and sacrifices of the Oromo youth, the Kairos and Kores in bringing the current change that we see in Ethiopia? May I start this with Milko? How do you assess this?
Yes, thank you for that question. I would say that the Keros and the Kararis in Ethiopia, and especially in the Oromia region, were fundamentally responsible for the shift and the change that had happened. TPLF had been ruling for over 27 years at that time. And for that entire period of time, Oromos were subjected to displacement, land grabbing, brutality, exploitation, mass imprisonment, propaganda. So all of that built up over time, and Oromo youth during the time of where the Oromo protests and the movement started happening was the time where huge land grabbing and so-called development by the TPLF was starting to happen. This is the time when Oromos were being displaced in millions and still are to this day. And they were being brutalized at protests, mass killings. So Oromo youth at that time were fundamentally responsible in changing the regime and the downfall of the TPLF regime. The Oromo movement sacrificed a lot of lives at that time. I believe it's over 5,000 lives that were taken during those protests. And what the hope was for the Oromo community back home and in the diaspora was a fundamental shift from the previous systems of oppression that had existed in Ethiopia. Oromos had never had any type of freedom. They were always subjected to brutality and oppression for the past 150 years. And for the TPLF regime to be taken down by Kero and Karre youth was a big deal for Oromia and for Ethiopia as whole. So what has happened now is beyond sad, it is beyond destructive, but to say that Oromo youth did not play a role is simply false. They were fundamentally responsible in changing this regime and having a new regime come into play.
Thank you, Milko. Can you comment on the same question, Hashim?
Yeah, I definitely can. So if we talk about the Oromo struggle and the youth, there's the student contribution, it will take us so many years back, and so I'm just gonna come to the very 5, 6, 7 years. So when let's say back in 2010 or maybe before that, what happened was those of us who are outside of the country, we go to rallies every probably month or every year, and nobody heard us. And so now the Facebook and all social medias came up, and the connection kind of it made it easy for us to communicate with people back home and here. So there was a connection, and also the struggle continued. A lot of people paid, and even though there was so much oppression and suppress of the voice, people did not care, and youth came out in numbers and rallied, and also they connected with the people who are outside of the country. So it made it faster. So, and then we also made some friends, our past, quote unquote enemies became friends, and almost the foreigners, let's say the white people or people we live, with here, they start learning about Oromo. Everybody starts speaking about Oromo, and Oromo voice heard. And TPLF was pressured from within, from outside, and somehow they made a tactical, I would say. So they say, "Oh, we're going to reform and change this," and now we are where I think we're back to the square one, and nothing changed with Oromo. But the contribution of Oromo youth, it was unified before 2008. And very amplified, and it did produce a very good result, and it is very sad that we are still there.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just to add a little bit on that, like we are witnessing a lot of chaos back home in Ethiopia, specifically the Oromo prominent political leaders, as well as the voices from the majority of our community have been jailed, and it's telling us a lot of stories. Just to reflect on that. So when it comes to putting all these people, the voices of Oromo, the strongest political leaders who could be taking part in the upcoming election that is scheduled for the mid of next year. What do you think the rationale of Abiy's government counter-revolution, the dream of the past and mass persecution against these leaders?
Yes. So I would say it's a cycle repeating itself. Previous regimes and previous Ethiopian governments have used the same tactics. Imprisoning political opposition leaders was one of the main ways for authoritarian governments and dictatorships to sustain. And Abiy is just using the same playbook that has been used years and years and years ago. So the imprisonment of opposition leaders in the hopes of an election coming is helpful to Abiy, because then he has no threat to his power. He understands and he knows, and his entire administration knows, that the Oromo political opposition leaders were his biggest threat to power during that time, which is one of the reasons he postponed elections earlier. And to this day, opposition leaders are not being freed, even though there's no real just reason as to why they're imprisoned. There's no real charges against them. There's no evidence against them. And this administration is using that to capitalize off of sustaining power. Right now, he is not a legitimate government. And if elections do pass at the time where opposition leaders are still in prison, he will retain his power, and then he will be known as a legitimate government because the elections were held. But it is not legitimate because he is imprisoning opposition leaders and anyone who is a threat to his power, which includes political protesters, Oromo protesters who were fundamental in changing the last regime. And he knows the threat that Oromo youth possess and Oromo leaders possess, which is why he's using the same tactics that we have seen before in Ethiopia and in other countries as well.
Thank you, Milko. Going back to Kamal, Hashim. So we definitely see a lot of issues over there. Like when it comes to election, when prominent leaders who would be the best candidate to take part in that election are behind the bar, and now only as we all see, the leading, the governing party is the only one that is actively taking part in most of the situations we hear about the election. And these prisoners are still in the hearts of all the Oromos. We've been watching the Twitter campaign that was running for 24 hours, starting from yesterday, I believe, and about 300,000 people have been tweeting on that. And this is just to indicate that most of the prominent politicians from the Oromo community who would definitely represent these people are in prison right now. And the government is still planning and talking about bringing that election in the middle of the next year. So, Hashim, what is the fate of the prisoners of conscience? What do you think about this? And is it something that brings a big change to the country? And do you expect any kind of democracy in the process of that election as well? What is your view on this?
So I think I'm going to start with the ideology of, that Abiy himself was kind of projecting in, which is not, it's not true democracy. I don't think he really wanted true democracy, because I wasn't at when he came to Minneapolis about, was it 2018? I wasn't there, but I listened to what he said. And then also there were some questions, coming up from the people who came to, talk to him. And there was one thing that he really disappointed me. And he doesn't really, maybe he doesn't understand, or he doesn't want to recognize. So somebody asked him, hey, in your leadership, I'm not going to mention that particular region, but I don't see myself in there. And then so he start making fun of the guy. And so my point is, democracy means it start with, let's say, my village. I elect somebody from my village, and then that person represents my interest. And if in case my question is not answered, that representative, ask that question on my behalf. He was not trying to address that. He was trying to cover up with, oh, I'm Oromo, I can answer all your questions, so you just follow me. Okay, let's go back to the prisoners. If we talk about peaceful, I don't think, I'm gonna mention one person because anybody who knows him, Jawar is the most advocate of, I think, a peaceful, let's say, struggle. And Abiy saying that actually Jawar worked with Wayane, and he's trying to want Wayane to come back, which doesn't really make sense. And we know who is close to Wayane. You know who worked closely with the past regime. And so this doesn't make sense. And the fate, and when we think about democracy, Abiy by himself cannot bring democracy, even if he has the goodwill to do it, because democracy comes with the debate, democracy comes with the challenge, and people who are in jail right now are, especially in Oromia region, people who can challenge him, people who can actually present themselves as, this is what we want for our people, and this is because the government is not doing. Let's say there are a lot of questions that we asked, before 2008, before Abiy came to power, and none of those questions actually answered. Actually, there are more questions being added to it, and if these people stay in prison until next election, the only thing that's going to happen is Abiy is going to put his stamp on, saying, "Oh, I won. The people elected me, and they want to stay in power, and nothing's going to change for the Oromo people." So he put them in jail because he doesn't want to be challenged. He doesn't want to be, the other voice to be heard. I think that means there is no democracy. There's no challenge. Is he gonna run against himself? So we don't really see anybody who's challenging him right now in the Oromia region, especially right now. Who is speaking against Abiy? What he's doing? Thousands are in jail. People are, they can't even, and even if you say something different than what the government is saying, you'll be labeled as an agent of TPLF right now. Same thing came back. So that's all I can want to say right now.
Yeah, just to add a little bit on that, like when before Abiy came to power, the then government, that was ruling the country for 27 plus years, they came with the process of that fake election. The plan was to rule or to govern for 5 years, but because of the protest that was going on in Oromia and other parts of the country, they were forced to terminate that contract and just put Abiy into power because of kind of bringing a resolution into the ongoing protests and to bring some sort of peace to the country. That was because of the movement of the people of the country that brought that change, not because someone just challenged the existing party at that time to come to power. It was the force behind from the people of the country that drove that change, and finally Abiy took the office. If we say Abiy is going to win in the coming election, will that be something that gives that party a confidence of leading the country for another 5 years after that by putting this prominent political leaders of the Oromo community in the prison? Hashim, can you reflect on that?
Yeah, I mean, if does his winning kind of change anything, or maybe put our trust in him? No, he already lost our trust. People like me from the beginning, I never gave him my trust, 100% trust. I was like, you know what? Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay, he may change. Maybe he was pressured when he was working with TPLF, and maybe he did not have the opportunity to do anything for his people. But after he, took the power and everything is under his control, what he did was he divided us more somehow. Let's say before, during Wayane, the OPDOs don't say anything. They do pressure our people back home, but they don't come out and show like they are really pro-government. They don't do that. This is very odd right now.
Mm-hmm.
So what's gonna happen is, I think everything that we have gotten so far is gonna get eroded throughout the year if Abiy wins. And he's not the kind of guy who's gonna help our cause, move forward. I don't expect much from him, but maybe if there's much pressure from international communities and our people and come together, maybe just like he did in 2018, to get back to power, or to maybe dominate the politics, he may change some stuff. But I don't think I see a much big change.
Yeah, thank you, Milko. Just on the same topic, like, most of the time what we hear from different media sources is that there is a threat to the federalism in Ethiopia, and then they just want to bring back the country to the ruling of probably something 20, 30 years ago, which is ruling as a one country, one region, one religion, one language, kind of things like that have been very common to hear these days. And there are a lot of people saying there is a big threat to the federalism in Ethiopia. Abiy government is still saying verbally to the public that they don't want to demolish the federalism at all. They just want to improve things the way they want it. But a lot of Oromos and most southern people and other nationalities are uh, mentioning or raising the concern they have in terms of this federalism. Some of them are even coming out and saying there is no need to have a regional government, while the Oromos and the majority of people in that country are still struggling for that federalism and having a self-rule respected. And the election that is upcoming is scheduled for the mid of the next year. What do you think will that bring as a threat to the federalism in Ethiopia?
Yes, so ethnic federalism for communities such as the Oromo community who have been isolated, marginalized, their representation has been suppressed. Ethnic federalism gave them an identity publicly in the global spectrum. It gave them the ability to represent, even if the federalism itself was not was denied by the existing government in action. It in words and in the public spectrum, it gave Oromo people an identity, one that has been suppressed for years and years and years. So for Oromos who have risked their lives and have died to be represented in a country that has repressed them for so many years, this is devastating, especially for youth who have sacrificed their lives, for people who have endured mental and physical turmoil. And what he is doing is a complete threat to any type of diversity in Ethiopia. This man has focused especially on destroying the Oromo community, the Oromo spirit, the Oromo youth. He has placed an emphasis on trying to destabilize the Oromo community, whether that's economically, with mass displacement of Oromos, land grabbing, the lack of supporting Oromo farmers, and vice versa. He has made it a focus point to destroy diversity back home. He has attacked regions such as Ogaden. He has attacked regions in Wolaita. He has attacked Tigray region. He has attacked the Oromo region. So this is not a man that wants diversity. This is not a man that wants inclusion. And as much as he spews it in his rhetoric, it is a political sham, and it's what politicians do. Just because you say something in practice doesn't mean you actually do it. So what I'm focused on and what I encourage people to focus on is actions. What has this man done since he came to power? He has made it his focal point to destroy any type of diversity or any type of inclusion of any other people other the dominant representation of Ethiopia, which is the Amhara group. And he has made it a focus point to get rid of ethnic federalism, as much as he likes to spew that he doesn't. He is making it a point to get rid of ethnic federalism, which is a way that will take away any type of power or stability that Oromos have to have representation of their own communities, of their own land, and of their own regions. It strips Oromos away from any type of power that they have sacrificed their lives for. And with the next election, he's making it a point to go back to an Ethiopia which he stated was great. He said that he stated himself that Ethiopia needs, and people who support him state that Ethiopia needs to go back to when it was great. For the Oromo community, that has never happened. Ethiopia was never great for Oromos. Oromos have been subjected to mass brutality generation after generation. So this ideology is only for Abiy and the people that support him. But for the collective nation of Oromia and people who are not from the dominant group and who are marginalized, this is terrifying. And it takes us further back from what people have already sacrificed their lives from. So with this new election, as we've seen, he has continued to oppress people. He still has political opposition leaders, Oromo journalists, in prison, mass protesters in prison. So he's not going to make a shift. I don't believe that he is going to attend to Oromo community. And if so, even if he does, he's only doing it to maintain his power. It is a political move, and that I do not trust, and people within the Oromo community do not trust at all.
Thank you so much. Hashim, what do you think about this topic? Like in terms of destroying the ethnic federalism, will that be possible in Ethiopia?
Well, it is. We know it's not possible, and we know it. Abiy had the best opportunity out there any leader can have to fix and like centuries of grievances and problems in that country. And supposedly he came from Oromo, and Oromo has a lot of grievances in this, in Ethiopia. But yeah, even though we are the majority and we did not pressure Abiy much, he just changed, and he, instead of, okay, let me just go back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We the Oromos, we don't want to control or take all the power there is in Ethiopia. No, that's not what we wanted. We said we want like our proportion that we need. If we are 50% of that country, we want exactly 50%. We're not pushing anyone. So what Abiy, the opportunity that Abiy, did not use is to at least, let's say the first day on his inauguration, you know who he talked about? The person that we don't really want to hear. He talked about Menelik. He talked about past Ethiopian glories, whatever. We don't want to hear that because we do not, that is not the history that we want to revisit. Even if we do want to revisit, in a sense, you know what? This is in the past. Let's say the people who came from that line of the Menelik, today they don't have any contribution to what happened in the past. But yet they still kind of trying to connect themselves as Menelik, what their king or he's the warrior, whatever. But if you want to solve Ethiopian problem, I think you should at least definitely cut it, like its history of Ethiopia past the Derg. Because after Derg, it feels like everybody has the same kind of history, because Derg do not care. If you don't support the party, they'll kill you. It doesn't matter if you're Amara, or it doesn't matter if you are Tigray, whatever, right? But everything before that was, we don't have a good connection with that. And Abiy missed this opportunity to say, you know what happened in the past was bad. I don't want any revenge. Anybody who don't want any revenge from here, but let's move forward by accepting what happened in the past and let's live together. He did not do that. So now what he's trying to do is, let's just destroy this ethnic federalism that came and force it upon us by the TPLF, and let's just go back to what was it before the ethnic federalism? Was it like a RC, Hararge, Wolaga, something like that? No, that is to divide our force. Oromo, regardless of what region we came from, we have the same problem. We are all equally oppressed. But through this division, what they're gonna do is they're gonna divide us back into whatever we were, you know. And so we don't come together in unity. We don't come and fight our whoever is gonna come to our, you know, to our territory to basically oppress us. That's what they're trying to do. The funny thing is, even though Abiy did not come out and say this word for word, the Abiy has been actually putting into action every single questions that the Habasha group was saying. I have all the records. Everything that they said, put Jawar in prison. They did. I mean, the Abiy did. They said, go after TPLF. He did. There are so many things that they said and he did. But we asked so many questions, rightful questions, question of rights, like equality. But he's not doing that, you know. So I really, the only reason why they said we're gonna destroy this whole ethnic federalism is just to cut Oromia into pieces, nothing else. Nothing else. They don't say when they talk about the ethnic federalism, they don't say anything about Amara region. If you go to Amara region, I read a lot about this Ethiopia, US, in East Africa. Okay, so even though I'm not a political science, in Amara region there are Oromos, there are Kimans, there are so many ethnic groups in Amara region. No single Amara activist said anything about, cutting Amara into like Oromo region and, other people's region. No, the focus is on Oromia. And we know why, because this people, we are the most populous. We at this moment, we are so united. They want to divide us into pieces, and so that we don't have the power to reclaim what we have lost.
Thank you so much, Hashim. I think I will be restricted by the time that I'm assigned to conduct this interview. I just want to go to the last question to wrap up our interview here. Milko, as a political science student, you have a lot of things to suggest. What is your message to the government of Ethiopia, the Oromo community in diaspora, as well as in Ethiopia or Oromia?
Yeah. So my message to the government of Ethiopia is you will fall. Just like many other political governments and just like many other regimes, without the support of the people, you are bound to fail, regardless of when that time comes is unknown, but this regime will fall just like previous regime. And in regards to destroying Oromo youth and it's destroying Oromo will, Oromos have been subjected to oppression and repression for over 150 years. If they have not stopped for over 150 years, they will not stop now. So this idea that getting rid of opposition leaders and destroying OLF and all of these things, Oromos understand the historical context. They understand what oppression is. They understand what brutality is. And what Oromos know best, and Oromo youth in Oromia know best, is resistance. And they will continue to resist. And to the Oromo youth back home, my sincere gratitude for everything they have sacrificed at a time where they have everything to lose, and they're sacrificing their lives, sacrificing their freedom, sacrificing their sanity every single day for their equality, for the right to live on their own lands. And for that, that is an honor that is beyond words. And for the Oromo youth in the diaspora, I would just like to say, what we're doing now, what is happening now is very effective. The collective coming together and organizing and amplifying voices of back home, it is important, and unity is important, and a collective goal that we all have as one is important. And what we have done since the unfortunate passing of our hero Hachalu Hundessa and what has happened since then, it is important for us to keep continuing it, even if the media turns down and we're not as amplified as we were before. It is on us. It has always been on us to amplify the voices of the people back home, because nobody else will do it for us, and nobody else has done it for us for the time that we have been here. So for the youth back home, I would just like to say thank you for resisting, and continue to resist, and fighting for your freedom and fighting for your equality is always a beneficial thing. Whether that equality will come on our time or the time of our children, it is always beneficial for all of us. So for us as youth and for us as an Oromo community, I feel like it is important and extremely significant for us to be collective and united in our goals and be persistent, because we are in a privileged state. And if we can even endure what our people have endured back home, and some of our parents have, and people we know have already endured that, we need to continue to persist with their will and their spirit. If they're continuing to fight for us, we need to continue to fight for them, and we need to be collective in our goals.
Thank you so much. Hashim, I'm going to ask you the last question, which is similar to what I did for Nilko. So what is your advice or kind of a message you want to send to the youth or Keros and Kares in Oromia as well as in the diaspora community?
So it's very important that we recognize what our youth has been paying for years, and they're always ready to do it, and I personally really appreciate what they've done. So many of us left the country because just to save our lives, and then we live in a very peaceful country, and so I'm very thankful. So what we need to know now is, I really want to say to our youth, or even people of my age and older, is that we should think about tomorrow. It's not just the momentarily whatever we get. This is for those who are actually working with the government right now, and we need to think about what am I contributing? If something happens to the Oromo people right now, if something happens to the Ethiopian people right now, what am I contributing? Is it positive or negative? I'm not saying do not support. You can support, but what is your support doing to your people? Okay, to the Oromo youth, and they've been resilient for so many years, and they should still unite, continue questioning, and pursue their dreams. That is to have the freedom, democracy that they've been fighting for so many years. And people outside of the country, like me and you are free to go out rallies, say whatever you want. You have the right. So you should always stand with the people, stand with the right people, I should say, not with the oppressor, not with somebody who is trying to, silence people, and especially those who live outside of the country and live in a democratic country. And when you support a government that suppresses voice, that says much about you. So think about it. I think basically that's what I say. That's what I want to say about.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank you, both of you, for accepting our invitation and coming up and just reflecting on the topic of today, political environment and humanitarian and human rights situations in Ethiopia and Oromia. Again, to our viewers, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.